22% of what length is 44 feet? So 22% of what length, we don't know what it is, so we're going to call it x, is 44 feet. So we'll set up a percent proportion and also a percent equation. Percent proportion, the percent sits on the left. P over 100, 22 over 100 is, now we don't know the base value, percent of the whole or the base. We don't know what that is, so we're going to call it x, is the part which is 44. So it's important to read the question. Remember, when you say a percent of or a fraction of, you're always referring to some quantity, which is always the base. Or it's also called the reference value. So the reference value always sits in the denominator. The part of it sits in the numerator. Now the solution is the usual 22x cross multiply equals 100 times 44. Divide both sides by 22. We have 100 times 44 divided by 22. 22 goes 2 times, or you can go 11 times 4 and 11 times 2. Same thing, and that's equal to 200. So x is equal to 200. 22% of 200 is 44. 22% of 200 feet is 44 feet. So that makes sense. Now let's see how a percent equation can be set up. 22% of times the reference quantity, a percent of the whole, or it's the base or reference quantity, is 44. So now 22x is equal to 44. Now the number that we need to get rid of on the left is 22 over 100. Now what we could do is multiply by the reciprocal. 100 over 22 times 22 over 100 x equals, do the exact same thing on the right. We multiplied the left side by 100 over 22. We multiply the right side by 100 over 22 as well. We cancel common factors here, and you see the whole point, that becomes a 1, and we got rid of the entire fraction, 22 over 100, by multiplying both sides with the reciprocal. And we get the exact same answer. And let me just solve this in a slightly different way. 4 times 11, 2 times 11, 11 cancels. The 2 also cancels with the 4 2 times. 2 goes 2 times into 4, so that is 200. 9.5% of 200, 9.5 is 200% of what number? So a percent of what number? So we don't know what this is. But if you say a fraction of the whole, this is always the whole or the base. So we have 200%. So 200 over 100 is the same as the base number we do not know, so we're going to call it x. So 9.5 over x is the same as 200 over 100. How do we solve it? We cross multiply to get a 200x, and that's equal to 9.5 times 100. So I divide both sides by 200, and this is equal to 9.5 times 100 over 200. Cancel the zeros, so we have x equals 9.5 over 2. So let's do the division. 9. If you can do that in your head, that's fine, but if not, just do the calculations. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract to get a 1, bring the 5 down. 2 7s are 14. Remainder 1. Remember there's a decimal here. And then bring a 0 down. 2 5s are 10. So this is equal to, so x is equal to 4.75. So 9.5 is 200% of 4.75. It's like saying 200% is the same as double. 9.5 is double of 4.75, which means if you multiply 4.75 by 2, you get a 9.5. Now let's set up a percent equation. 9.5 is 200% of the number x, a percent of the whole. This is the whole. Now let's translate this into an equation. 9.5 is equal to 200% of, so times, so 200% is 200 over 100 of x. So this is 9.5 equals 2x. And then of course divide both sides by 2 to get the exact same answer, which is 4.75. Janie and Don left their house in South Bend, Indiana, to visit friends in Chicago. So they left home from South Bend and they're driving towards Chicago. They drove 80% of the distance before stopping for lunch. So they're already done with 80% of the entire distance. If they had driven 56 miles before lunch, which is 80% of the whole, what would be the total distance? So when they say 80% of the distance, this distance they're talking about is the total distance, which is unknown, and that is equal to x. So 80% of x. So x is the base or the reference value. So 80 over 100 is equal to 56 miles that have been driven already over a total of this unknown quantity x. So the minute you see a percent of the whole, the percent of the base or the denominator, the whole always sits in the denominator. It's also called the reference value once again. So we cross multiply. 80x is equal to 56 times 100. Divide both sides by 80. 56 times 100 over 80. So x is equal to 8 7s are 56 equal to 70 miles. So if the total distance is 70 miles and you've already driven 56 miles, then you've covered 80% of the distance. So basically you're saying 56 is 80% of 70 miles. So the total distance, which is your reference value, is equal to 70 miles. Now, how would we set up the percent equation. What we've set up here is a proportion. Ratio on the left equals ratio on the right. Percent equation is, let's say, 80% of the total distance x is 56 miles, because what you drove is 80% and it's also 56 miles. So 80% of the total distance is 56 miles. So use this to set up the equation. 80 over 100 of, so times, x is 56. How do I get rid of a fraction on the left? It's the same as dividing both sides with 80 over 100. It's multiplying by the reciprocal. Dividing by 80 over 100 is the same as multiplying by 100 over 80. Is equal to 100 over 80 times 56. X is equal to 100 times 56 over 80. 8 sevens are 56 and you get x equals 70.